What's going on YouTube? Back at you with another video. So I want to talk about today why you really have to take nutrition seriously, and why if you're not, the other things you're doing, especially gym, it's actually almost pointless. I have to really hammer down that point, because what a lot of people don't get is the gym is not the hardest part of this journey. Anyone can train hard for an hour, but the real test or battle comes in the daily battle, with gluttony, because you have to eat the correct foods every day, and you have to also avoid the wrong foods every day. So every day, just like lust, you're battling this daily, you're also battling gluttony every day too, because you have to eat. So if you're someone that has to eat food, which we all do, then you are, you can't just ignore gluttony. Because if you don't, the diabetes, all those things, that is likely your future, because you think it's a joke. But I'm here to tell you, it's not a joke, Especially when you hear from certain people that used to be really overweight, how gluttony basically ran them for years, decades even, or quite literally their whole life, You start to see like, yeah, this shit's very real. And that's the biggest thing too. For me, it finally clicked, even though, and it's funny because I've always cared about my health, eating the right foods, trying to optimize everything, hormones to all that. But you get to a certain point where it finally clicks and you realize, oh yeah, I was never the crazy one. Like, this should be normal. This is the bare minimum, or it becomes your standard. So you don't view yourself as crazy anymore. It's just something you do. If you prioritize your health, these are the things you do. And I saw a really good, I didn't watch the video, but the title was like, you have to treat your body like like you're an athlete. And that makes perfect sense too, because even more so for them, they have to prioritize recovery and all these things because they're more active. Even if you're not an athlete and you're still working out, you're still training hard, especially if you eat this way, you're still training hard. It's why, because I'm not like you guys, I'm not really into sports, but if anyone watches soccer, Halan, he's pretty cool because we eat the same diet, the raw milk, the honey, all that stuff. If anyone's like curious about my diet, links are in the description, by the way, my IG and stuff. You guys can be up there if you have any questions for this stuff, Always here to help you guys out. Or you can even comment on YouTube too. Doesn't matter, but we eat the same way, which is kind of cool. But when I learned a little more about him, he prioritizes sleep. He's getting like 9-10 hours, 7 to 9 is fine. It's really going to sleep, waking up at the same time. You'll find me, I prioritize sleep, really takes his health seriously. It makes sense, and he's a world-class athlete. But if you can apply that same, intentionality, discipline, even if you're not an athlete, that becomes very powerful too. Because I see now, yeah, you need that. You need that to get lean. Because it has to become the standard and non-negotiable that you can take your health seriously. So you will, track calories, eat the right foods, avoid the other wrong foods. Because what a lot of people don't get is, and this is why you gotta seek this stuff out. You gotta like watch videos and stuff. But when you learn, so I'm always telling you guys, just learn some basic biochemistry. Where once you understand how insulin and all that stuff works, and why the acetyls and all that stuff are bad, maybe I'll make a video about that if anyone's interested. But once you understand how that stuff's bad, it becomes very easy to just not do those things, because it's out of alignment with you. But quite literally, you get to the point where you start viewing it as poison, so you're really not going to ingest that. But when you go so long without those foods, your body can really function and move how it's supposed to. So it becomes effortless. Because for me, I've always been someone that's skinny, but that's why I think it's important. Wherever you start in your journey, there are a lot of people, they might start from fat to, then they lose the weight, or you might start from skinny, then you bulk, and then you have to cut back again. But I think it's very important you go through both aspects, because now you can, it's like you've had the battle with gluttony on both sides of the equation. So even if you're skinny, you might be skinny fat, so you have to, at a certain point in the journey, you're going to have to lose body fat, But specifically, if you're in the beginning of your journey, a very small surplus, because you don't have to go on a crazy bulk, but a very small surplus, it's going to help, your muscle building journey. But even then, so you still have to, you got to eat a little more in maintenance, but that's another thing too. you're also bound because okay, you got maintenance. Maintenance it might be more food than you used to eat, but you still have to eat it because that's what your body actually needs. Especially if you train hard and you're taking the training seriously, you have to make sure you're eating because I'm telling you, if you really dedicate yourself to improving your diet, things are gonna change. I'm telling you. Take me for example. If anyone's interested, I put on my IG some progress pics of the lean saga, the cut journey so far, and I'm down 14 pounds and 4 inches off my waist. But what's so hard to explain, and you're not gonna get it till you've gone through it, is I knew, of course, you want to lose body fat, so your waist is gonna go down, but it's almost as if you didn't ask for that. That just came as a consequence of your standards getting so much higher, and you really recognize like gluttony's the enemy. I need to kick gluttony's ass, and then that's happened. That's why I continue, to lose body fat, get strong in the gym, on this cut because I've done the deep inner work and conquered. Well, I wouldn't say conquered because that would imply because gluttony is always going to be there, but you've suppressed or you have mastery over. It's like Naruto and the Nine Tails. It's always going to be there, but it doesn't control you. It actually, well, I guess it becomes an asset. That makes sense, but yeah. Because it's very important, guys. I'm telling you, it's because if you undermine it, that's how gluttony and lust destroy you. See, I'll always say, if anyone does semen retention, if you don't, the reason I want you to do it is because it's quite literally life and death. I don't know how to explain it in another way that the ego would understand, but because what SR and gluttony can teach you is all it takes is one mistake. You might eat 10,000 calories, get sent to the hospital. You might die from that, but which I'm sure has happened. Or with gluttony, with lust, excuse me. Enough crazy stuff can happen. That can have you drink, get blackout drunk. You might die from alcohol poison. That's why you always, on a day-to-day basis, I'm like these. It's some anime shit too. It's like moderate. Think of any really dangerous villain, moderate, Frieza, Cell. Like, these are threats you have to you can't joke around with. You gotta always be serious. You have to stay locked in because if you don't, all they need is one glimpse, like one chance to drag you down. You won't be able to get back to that state. Some people are like that, but see, for me, it's impossible because I know, it doesn't matter. Gluttony is every day. It's because I see it. People's waist. That's the thing too. This awareness is dangerous because that chick that you thought was cute, her waist is like double yours, but she weighs less than you. Like these are things you can't turn off. I don't know if someone else can relate to this, but you can't turn it off. And it's not that you're judging people, you're just very objective. You're like, damn, this person's actually bad as shit. And you're like, oh wow, I just never saw it like until recently. That's why, for me, because tracking is so nuanced. Like the reason you need to track is because it gives you awareness for how much you're eating, but also how much other people are eating too. But me, I'm a little more nuanced because calories in, calories out. If you're eating whole foods, it doesn't matter as much, but it still matters because that's why my journey is so unique because I was eating all the right foods for over a year straight. I was just eating too much of it. That's because I came from like the carnivore, keto space. But that's why I want you guys to go out there and try different diets. Because I'm at this point now because I've tried so much diets, I've tried so much things. But you wanna, if anyone's seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's a principle I try to always stand by. Is you have to draw information from multiple sources. Uncle Iroh, he learned this from the waterbenders, he learned this from the earthbenders. Yeah, I think he learned to redirect lighting because of the waterbenders, right? I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. But for me, I took all the good aspects of carnivore, keto, because that's how I started to learn about biochemistry, carb timing, all those things was from doing those diets. So I took the good things about those diets, and the bad things I disregarded and merged into a version of the diet. I follow now, the animal-based diet, halal diet, but I think that's the most flexible for me. And there's enough research and stuff to support, this is how we should be eating. So, especially if you're a little more active, you can get away from more carbs. So that's why I encourage you, you have to try things, seek out the information. That's the biggest thing too. Just reach our max. You don't have to have all the answers on some anime shit. Like, they could just run out there, you know, try to save that person, even if you can. Hope everyone wants to Tokyo Revengers. If you haven't watched Tokyo Revengers, by the way, very good. But you know, you might not be strong. You might be fighting Madara, and you might be pre-time skip Naruto, but still run at him. You know, there's still something to learn in doing that. You know, because when you really try, the universe, you guys will see, you're gonna get rewarded. You're gonna meet someone. Something will occur. The YouTube algorithm too. That's another good way. You might find someone. Oh, okay. I just need to hear from that person, that perspective. See, for me, the reason I'm so grateful for my community is because anyone's a nigga. You guys know how it is. Niggas don't care about fitness and health, right? And we all know like anime is a lot more mainstream now, but it wasn't like that years ago. So when you have like a community of people that like they like anime and they're niggas, but they really locked on the fitness stuff, that's really rare. But that's what I needed, because once I heard it from someone that was like that, I'm thinking, oh, he's like me, okay. Like he's just older, but oh, he's actually like me. Oh, he's just like my best friend, okay. So it makes you realize, oh, you're actually not alone. But there are other people out there like you. It's just when you get on this journey, you're actually going to start to separate yourself. So a part of you also understands, yeah, okay, I'm actually not normal objectively. That's not a bad thing, because if you want extraordinary results, you got to do, you know, things that are extra to ordinary people. And you taking your health seriously on a day-to-day basis, this is how you begin, you know, to separate yourself. And these are just all things you become more aware of on the journey. That's all I always say, like, yeah, seek it out. You know, you'll find all your answers when you just decide to, you know, start. You know, you're going to get rewarded for trying. That's the thing. A lot of people, they don't want to try, but we'll try. You know, consistency is important too, but you can't be consistent if you don't try or don't begin. You know, you have to take that leap of faith, because I didn't think, you know, me attempting to work out would lead me up to this point. But I was like, you know what? Everyone always talks about this workout stuff. Let me give it a shot. But now the more I think about it, yeah, it's something you have to go through. This spiritual journey, because we all innately go through it too. But the gym it's a mandatory spiritual journey. This is something like you have to go through, because if you give it everything, and that's why I make these videos, is to document really the importance and the transformation of the spiritual journey, you know, all that too. It's just to document it too, because that's another thing too. If you're listening, if you're starting your fitness journey, please take progress pics. Just document. Do a video where you're 30% body fat, because when you're 10 or 8, you're gonna be like, wow, no way, that was me. I look back at pictures of myself and I was like, wow, I was not bad as shit, but you could just visibly see that my face was different. And I did weigh a lot more too. But, you know, I didn't have as much muscle and stuff. So it's nice to see those transformations, because spiritually, you go through so much. Like, that's what you guys don't get, you know. For me, I'll always use the dumbbell shoulder press because that was my first lift. But to go from 10 to 75, the transformations, the mental shifts, the identity shifts you go through from 10 to 75, you know, it can't even be expressed in words, because there's so much change. But that's why I say in the gym is so much more than just getting stronger. It's a lot more than just pushing, you know, barbell off you, literally. It's so much more than that. But you have to generally give the journey everything you have. Only then will it make sense. It's on some anime shit, you know, where the mentor is telling you, okay, yeah, you have to, gotta do this, gotta go through these trials, and then you'll understand, you know, you just gotta do it. You just have to trust me, but trust, it's gonna be worth it. You just have to keep going. Remember, keep moving forward on some your shit, because it will be worth it, because it's gonna teach you so much about yourself. And you know, anyone that's into like spirituality, not the woo-woo stuff. Remember, all this stuff is very real. You know, the law of attraction. You know, vibrating higher, so which makes you essentially luckier, because you're just like, damn, like you're so blessed. You know, you're blessed for this information. So you want to use that to help and serve other people. Because remember, ultimately, that's what, at least for me, it was very simple. You know, when I sat down, I was like, yeah, okay. You know, I know so much about this stuff. Let me share it, help other people. Because if you can inspire one person to start the journey, that's worth, you know, 1,000 lifetimes. Because what you're gonna learn from going through these transformations, you'll need that to whatever goal it is you want to do. If you know you want to be a world-class athlete, if you want to, you know, musician, you know, you're gonna have to go through this journey. That's why it's important. That's why I keep talking about it. We'll continue to talk about it in every video, because it's really that important, guys. I'm telling you. Because you're gonna go through some stuff, you're gonna be so grateful. Because remember, nothing is innately good or bad. It's just there's something to learn from it. You know, just always view it that way. There's something to learn. What can I learn from this? How can it make me better? You know, that you'll start thinking like that too. So when shit really is the fan, okay, what can I learn? How can we grow from this? Awesome anime shit. Okay, how can we learn, grow from this, adapt? You know, you want to be like JJ Kids going. I need well, no, I did finish the manga, but there's like a part 2. But Magaraga, you want to adapt to everything eventually. But yeah, guys, everyone's made this far in the video. Just comment. What's your go-to meal? You know, what's been your go-to meal for your cut or your bulk, or if you're just maintaining? What's your go-to meal? For me, it's always going to be in my ground beef bowl, which I've been, and that's the thing, not experimented, but you know, I did some ground beef and potatoes, or shepherd's pie. That's what we call it. Jamaican, by the way. Also, if anyone was curious, but yeah, that's my go-to meal. Comment yours, and yeah, guys, stay locked in, stay blessed. We got an upload coming tomorrow, of course, and the day after. Stay locked in. Let's get it.